I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel and like this video. My goal is to reach the first 1,000 subscribers. Thank you and enjoy. Before I get into it, here's the point of this story. A lot of men wait for a big moment before they act. They tell themselves it's stress, it's work, it's a phase. Meanwhile, the disrespect becomes normal. The home turns into a hotel room, and your role quietly changes from husband to background staff. This one is about early signals. The phone that never leaves a hand, that don't start, the late nights that come with new smells and missing warmth. And it's about what actually works, calm boundaries, logistical moves, and protecting your time, your money, and your dignity before you're forced into a corner. Not speeches, not begging, just clear consequences. Kate set a plate in front of me without looking up from her phone. The steak was oversalted, cold in the middle, like she had made it out of obligation, then forgot it existed. She slid my fork 2 inches with 2 fingers, the way you move something you don't want to touch. "I'm wrung out," she said, eyes still on the screen. "Eat if you want." I stared at the plate, then at her thumb scrolling like she was defusing a bomb. Tough day. I kept my voice light, like I was giving her a ramp instead of a wall. Deadlines. "Okay, we can talk after." She didn't even let me finish. "Don't start, Mark." That phrase. Short. Flat. Like a lid slapped on a pot. I leaned back in the chair. "Start what?" She finally looked up, and the look wasn't tired. It was irritated, like my presence was a pop-up ad. "This," she said, waving her phone at me like it was evidence. The questions. The tone. "I'm not doing it tonight." I tapped the edge of the plate with my knife. The sound was small, but in that kitchen it felt loud. I asked one question, and I answered. Deadlines. Her chair scraped back. "I'm taking a shower." She carried her own plate to the sink, set it down like she was clocking out, and walked past me. As she brushed by, I caught it. A smell on her sweater that wasn't her. Not her detergent. Not her usual perfume. Something sharper. Cleaner. Like another person's soap, another car's air. Not proof. Not a smoking gun. Just a needle under the skin. I sat there, alone with a cold steak. I told myself one sentence that mattered more than any argument. I'm not going to audition for attention in my own home. And if I'd known where it was headed, I would have moved even faster. The next morning, I didn't bring it up over coffee. I didn't chase her around the apartment like a confused intern. I changed the operating system. Kate came out of the bedroom in a blazer, phone already in her hand. She was Denver new, now. New building, new job pace, new attitude, like the city had given her permission to be impatient. "Are you seriously eating without me?" she asked, seeing my plate. "It's 7:15, I replied. "That's breakfast." She blinked like I had spoken another language. We used to, I corrected, and kept chewing. She did that little exhale she used when she wanted me to feel childish. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said. "I'm being scheduled." Her phone buzzed. Her eyes dipped immediately. I nodded at it. That thing gets more eye contact than I do. She didn't miss a beat. Because it doesn't interrogate me. Interrogate. I let out a short laugh. "Kate, if you think, 'How was your day?' is interrogation, you're not a wife. You're a press conference." Her jaw tightened. "You're in a mood. I'm in a boundary." She stepped closer, lowered her voice, tried to make it intimate. "Mark, work is heavy right now. I don't have the bandwidth for whatever this is." "Great," I said. "Then here's the simple version. We're splitting calendars." She stared. "What?" "I'm not waiting around for you to maybe show up and maybe talk. I'll plan my week. You plan yours. If there's overlap, you can request it like a normal adult." Her eyebrows went up. "Request it? That's what you've been doing to me," I replied, just without asking. She wanted to argue, but her phone lit again and her attention snapped away. Like a leash had tugged. I stood, slid my plate into the sink, and grabbed my keys. "Also, the budget is changing." I got her eyes back on me. "Excuse me. Shared spending is now house only," I said. "Rent, utilities, groceries. That's it." She laughed like it was a joke she didn't like. "You can't just decide that." "I just did," I answered calm. "You want extras, you use your own money." Her face changed, less annoyed, more alert. Not sad. Not concerned. More like someone noticing a door quietly locking. "You're punishing me," she said. "I'm aligning my resources with reality," I corrected. If we're roommates with paperwork, we budget like roommates. We are not roommates. Then act married, I said and walked out. At work, my buddy Vince caught me near the break room. Vince was in his late 40s, ex-military posture, office job now, but he still had the habit of scanning a room like it owed him money. You look like you slept in a chair, he said. I slept fine, he replied. I just woke up. Vince poured coffee, didn't ask for a whole novel. New city, new building, same old stuff. I shrugged. My wife's living in her phone like it's a second apartment. He snorted. Phones don't cook cold steaks. I looked at him. That's the part that's funny. She did cook. She just cooked like I'm a task. Vince nodded once, slow. When the respect slips, everything else follows. I'm not waiting for it to come back, I said. I'm restructuring. That's the only language some people understand, Vince replied. Then he leaned in a bit. Just don't do the thing where you argue with shadows. Facts beat feelings every time. Facts. That stuck. That evening, Kate came home late again. Not crazy late, but late enough to make a point. She breezed in, heels off by the door, phone still in hand, moving like the apartment was a hallway. I was eating at the counter, on schedule. She stopped. So this is a thing now? You just eat alone like a divorced guy? I didn't look up. It's efficient. She tossed her bag down. You're being petty. I took a sip of water. Petty would be me fighting for your attention. This is me not competing with your screen. She rolled her eyes. You love acting superior. No, I said. I love acting consistent. She opened the fridge, stared into it like it owed her entertainment, then pulled out the sparkling water. So what? You're going to cut me off because I'm busy, she asked. I'm going to remove myself from any setup where you get comfort and I get attitude, I replied. She gave me a tight smile. You're really doing this. Okay, fine. I like clear signals. That line landed weird. Not I miss you. Not let's fix it. Just clear signals, like she was adjusting her strategy. Her phone buzzed again. She turned it face down on the counter, almost too fast. Who's texting? I asked, not heated, just direct. She didn't blink. Work. Work has a lot to say at 9:30, I replied. Don't start, Mark, she snapped, and took the water toward the bedroom. As she passed, that smell again. Different day, same needle. 2 days later, the neighbor knocked on my door around noon. Her name was Linda, mid-60s, retired, the kind of woman who knew every dog's name in the building and exactly who was lying about recycling. I opened the door, and she gave me a careful look like she was deciding how to say something without getting pulled into a mess. Mark, she said softly, can I talk to you for a second? Sure, I replied. What's up? Linda wrung her hands, then went with the direct route anyway. I don't want to be that neighbor. I really don't. Linda, I said, if you're here, it's because it matters. Say it. She nodded once. I've seen Kate come home during the day. I blinked. During the day? Yes, she said. Twice this week. And she wasn't alone. My face didn't move. Inside, everything went quiet. I kept my voice even. Are you sure? Linda's mouth tightened. I'm old Mark, not blind. A man, not you. And he stayed a while. I held the door frame, not because I needed support, but because it was something solid to hold while my brain stayed logical. Did you see his face? I asked. Not clearly, she admitted. Tall, dark hair. He carried himself like he belonged. Like he belonged. In my building. In my place. Thank you, I said. I appreciate you telling me. Linda looked relieved and worried at the same time. I am sorry. I hate this kind of thing. I gave her a small nod. I don't. I hate being played. After she left, I didn't call Kate. I didn't text, where are you? Like a teenager. I drove to an electronics store on my lunch break and bought 2 small cameras. Local storage, no cloud. One for the entryway. One for the living room. Nothing in bedrooms. Nothing creepy. Just my front door and my common space. If someone wanted to treat my home like a stage, I wanted the security footage. That night, Kate walked in and saw me on a step stool, adjusting the angle. She froze. What is that? A camera? I replied, like I was explaining a toaster. Her face pinched. Why? Because we live in a complex, I said. People wander. Packages disappear. I'm being practical. She gave me a sharp laugh. Practical, right? You're tracking me. I'm tracking my front door, I corrected. If you feel threatened by that, It says more about you than the camera." Her eyes flashed. "You're insane." "No," I said, climbing down. "I am calm." "Big difference." She stepped closer, voice low. "You don't get to do stuff like this without talking to me." "I'm talking to you now," I replied. "Also, you didn't ask permission to turn our kitchen into a silent treatment clinic, so we're clearly past the joint committee phase." She glared, then did something interesting. She didn't fight it hard. She just said, "Fine, whatever," and walked off, phone already back in her hand. That was the moment it clicked even clearer. She didn't care about privacy. She cared about control. The next morning was the first softening. I came out to the kitchen, and Kate was there in sweatpants, music playing quietly, hair up, smiling like a commercial. A plate of pancakes sat on the counter. Real effort. Syrup, strawberries, even a clean fork placed correctly. Her phone was nowhere in sight. "Well," I said, "look at this. Did magazine crew move in overnight?" She gave a small laugh. "Can you not?" I poured coffee. "Not what?" "Be like that," she said, and slid a plate toward me. "I've been harsh." I raised an eyebrow. "Harsh is one word." She took a breath. "I'm sorry. I've been stressed. I took it out on you." That wasn't fair. I sat down slow. "Okay." She watched my face like she was reading a test result. "Okay, what?" "Okay." I repeated. "I heard you." Her smile wobbled. "That's it. I'm not doing a victory lap because you cooked breakfast," I replied. "But it's noted." She reached across the counter, touched my hand briefly. "I miss us." I looked at her hand on mine. It was warm, familiar. It would have been easy to let the softness pull me back into the old pattern. Then her phone buzzed from somewhere. Not a ring, a vibration, but she reacted like someone had snapped fingers in her ear. Her eyes flicked sideways. Her body stiffened for half a second. She pulled her hand back and forced a smile. "Eat while it's hot." I took a bite, chewed, and nodded. "Sure." She tried again. "I'm going to be better about the phone." "Good," I replied, "because I'm not competing with it." She nodded quickly. "I know." Then she stood, found her phone on the kitchen chair like she had hidden it there, and set it face down again. Softening, not fixing. Adjustment, not remorse. That afternoon, I checked the camera storage while she was at work. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't panicking. I was auditing. At first, nothing. Just deliveries. Me coming and going. Linda walking her little dog. Normal. Then, on the second day, around 1:12 p.m., my entryway camera caught the door opening. Kate walked in, hair down, moving fast. Behind her, a man. He stepping like he had been there before. They didn't look around like strangers. They didn't hesitate. She put her hand on his arm and guided him in. Living room camera caught them crossing the space. And when he turned slightly, the side profile hit me like a slap from a familiar hand. Dunn, my brother-in-law, Sarah's husband, the guy who had sat at our table 2 weeks earlier, laughing, calling me brother, asking about my job like he respected it. I paused the video, rewound, played it again. Same face, same walk, same confident comfort. I let out one short breath through my nose, the kind you do when something is so ridiculous you can't believe it's real. "Of course," I muttered to the empty room. "Of course it's you." I didn't watch longer than I needed. I didn't sit there and torture myself frame by frame. Facts, not feelings. I copied the file to a flash drive, put it in an envelope, and drove to a diner across town where Sarah agreed to meet me. Sarah was Kate's older sister, early 40s, not delicate, the kind of woman who could smile at you while cutting your excuses into little pieces. When I walked in, she waved from a booth, coffee already there. She looked tired but not surprised. I slid into the seat across from her and placed the envelope on the table like it was a bill. She frowned. "Mark, what is this?" "It's information," I replied. "And I'm going to say this clean so there's no confusion." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Okay." I leaned in slightly. "I put cameras in my entryway and living room. Local storage. No clothes. 2 days ago." She sat back. "Why?" "Because your sister's been living in her phone, coming home late, treating me like I'm interrupting her life," I said. "Then my neighbor told me she's been bringing a guy into our place during the day." Sarah's mouth tightened. "Mark," I slid the envelope closer. "Open it." She hesitated, then pulled out the flash drive. "What am I looking at?" "Your husband," I said. In my home. Her face went blank in that dangerous way. Don't say that. I'm not guessing, I replied. I'm not interpreting. I am stating. Sarah stared at the drive like it was radioactive. Let me see. I brought my tablet, I said, pulling it from my bag. You can watch it here or in your car. Your call. Sarah swallowed hard. Show me. I played the clip. No sound, just movement. Kate opening my door. And stepping in. The familiar comfort. Sarah's hand went to her mouth. Not dramatic, just reflex. She watched it twice, then pushed the tablet away like it burned. That's Dan, she whispered. I nodded once. Yes. Sarah shook her head slowly. No, this is Mark, this is insane. It's real, I replied. And I'm not doing a debate club about it. Her eyes snapped to mine. What are you going to do? I didn't flinch. I'm into my marriage. Sarah blinked. Mark, wait, you and Kate can. No, I cut in calm. This isn't a we'll work on it situation. This is a you don't get access to me anymore situation. Sarah's breathing got shallow. Did you tell anyone? Just you, I said. Because you deserve to know who's playing you. She stared down at her coffee like she wanted to throw it. I can't even. I'm not here to manage your feelings, I said. Not cruel, just factual. I'm here to hand you the truth. Sarah nodded, eyes glassy but sharp. Okay. What do you need from me? I need you to have this, I said, tapping the envelope. So when the story starts getting edited, you're not guessing. Sarah's jaw tightened. She's going to deny it. Let her, I replied. I'm not asking for permission. Sarah gripped the envelope. What about Dan? What about? That's your lane, I told her. Mine is Kate. Sarah looked up, voice low. You're not going to do something stupid, right? I gave her a tired half smile. Sarah, I'm not a teenager. I'm not going to smash a windshield. I'm going to remove them from my life. She nodded slowly. Okay. As I stood to leave, she grabbed my wrist for a second. Mark, I am sorry. I pulled my arm back gently. Don't be sorry. Be precise. On the way home, I made calls. Not dramatic calls. Practical ones. A friend of mine from years back, Nate, did paperwork work. Not courtroom theatrics, not drawn-out battles. Just clean exits and clean boundaries. Nate, I said when he answered, I need documents set up. No drama. Just structured. He paused. Everything okay? No, it'll be Everything is clear. Send me what you have, he said. I'll prep what's needed. Then I called the building's maintenance line and scheduled a lock change for the next afternoon. I arranged it like I was scheduling a delivery. Then I went to the bank app and separated access. Shared account stayed for rent and utilities only. Everything else moved where it belonged. That night, Kate came home and tried her normal routine. Phone in hand, bag down, a quick hey like she was greeting a roommate. I didn't move from the couch. She glanced at me. You're quiet. I am efficient, he replied. She narrowed her eyes. What does that mean? It means I don't have extra words for someone who's living a separate schedule. She scoffed. Here we go. No, I said, and looked her straight in the face. Not here we go. Here we end. Just not tonight. Her expression flickered. Something like concern, but mostly calculation. She forced a laugh. You're being dramatic again. I tilted my head. If you believe that, you'll be surprised by what happens next. She didn't sleep much that night. I could tell by the way she moved around the bedroom, phone lighting her face in the dark. The second softening came 2 days later. I walked in from work and the apartment looked staged. Candles on the counter. Photos out, printed ones, like we were suddenly a wholesome couple from a brochure. Kate wore the dress she used to save for special nights. Her hair was done. Her smile was wide. She stepped toward me, arms open. Hey, I hung my keys on the hook slow. What's this? A reset, she said quickly. I've been thinking. I miss us. I want to fix it. I glanced at the candles. You're using fire to fix respect? She laughed too loud. Mark, come on. She moved closer, tried to touch my chest. No more phone. No more coldness. I'll take time off. We could do a weekend. Just us. I stepped half a pace back so her hand landed on air. Her smile tightened. Why are you acting like I'm a stranger? Because you've been treating me like one, I replied. She tried the warm voice again. I'm here now. I nodded toward the couch. Seat. She hesitated, then sat, still smiling like she was performing. I sat across from her, not next to her. Distance is a message. Tell me your week, I said. She blinked. What? Your schedule. I clarified. Where you've been. Who you've been with. Her smile froze. Why are you doing this right now? Because this is the moment you chose, I replied, gesturing at the candles. You want to reset? Start with reality. Her tone sharpened. I told you. Deadlines. Deadlines have a name? I asked. She stood up fast. Are you serious? I stayed seated. Very. Her voice rose a notch. You're trying to control me. I gave her a calm look. Kate, if you want to call accountability control, that's your favorite trick. It doesn't work on me anymore. She stared, breathing quick, then forced softness again like flipping a switch. Mark, please. I love you. I've been overwhelmed. Let's not ruin this. I tilted my head. Ruin what? The candles? The photo props? Her eyes flashed anger. Why are you being cruel? I leaned forward slightly. I'm being accurate. She opened her mouth, then her phone buzzed, hidden but audible. Her eyes darted toward the sound before she remembered her performance. I nodded once. There it is. She lunged for the phone, grabbed it, held it tight like it was oxygen. I stood up. Turn it over. She glared. No. Then we're done here, I replied. Her voice dropped to a hiss. You can't do this. I smiled, small and tired. Watch me. I went into the bedroom, pulled out a folder I had already prepared, and placed it on the kitchen table. I added an envelope with a flash drive inside. Then I sat at the table and waited. Kate hovered in the doorway, like she didn't want to cross into that part of the apartment. What is that? She asked. Paper, I replied. And consequences. She walked closer, eyes scanning the folder. Are those separation papers? I'm not arguing the label, I said. I'm ending this. Her face hardened. Because I cooked dinner and lit candles wrong? I looked up. Calm. Who was in our apartment during the day? She blinked fast. What? I didn't move. Try again. Who was in our apartment? Her lips pressed together. No one. I nodded once, like a teacher hearing the wrong answer. Try again. Her eyes narrowed. Are you watching me? I leaned back slightly. I installed cameras 2 days ago. Entryway and living room. Local storage. Her face drained so fast, it was almost impressive. She grabbed the back of a chair, not her phone this time. Her fingers tightened on the wood. You can't, she started. I lifted a hand, not aggressive, just final. Don't. Save it. She swallowed. You put cameras in our home to spy on me. I put cameras in my home, I corrected, and you brought your sister's husband through my front door like it was nothing. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. That's not. Dan. I said plain. It was Dan. Her eyes snapped wide, and that was the real confession. Not words. The face. She tried to pivot. Mark, listen. No, I cut in. You listen. I met Sarah at a diner. I showed her the video. She has a copy. Kate's hand flew to her chest like she was offended by physics. You told Sarah? I nodded. Yes. Her voice cracked, not from heartbreak, more like panic. Why would you do that? Histoire de hair. That question tells me everything. She stepped forward, voice pleading now. Mark, you don't understand. It's complicated. I tapped the folder. It's simple. You crossed a line you don't get to uncross. She shook her head hard. We can fix this. Please. People think we're strong. We just moved here. We can't. People. I repeated slow. There is again. The picture. The story. She reached for the folder. I slid it away. Tomorrow. I said, you sign. You pack what you can carry. You leave your keys on this table. Her eyes filled, but her voice turned sharp again. You can't just throw me out. I can, I replied. Locks get changed tomorrow afternoon. Maintenance is scheduled. She froze. You planned this? Yes, I said, because I don't do chaos. She tried another angle, softer, closer. Mark, I made a mistake. I looked at her, steady. A mistake is ordering the wrong groceries. You built a second life inside my dress. She flinched. Stop saying it like that. I'm saying it like it happened, I replied. She lowered her voice. If you do this, you blow up everything. I nodded once. That's the point. Everything built on disrespect deserves to get blown up. She stepped back, eyes darting, calculating again. What do you want? Money? An apology? A promise? I smile without humor. I want you out of my life. She stared like she couldn't understand that someone could choose peace over her drama. You're really doing this, she whispered. I stood, pushed my chair in neat. Yes. Kate's voice got desperate. Mark, please, don't do this to me. I looked her right in the eyes and delivered the final sentence without volume. I'm not doing this to you, Kate. I'm ending what you did to us. Then I walked past her, locked my bedroom door, and let her sit alone with the folder and her own choices. The next morning, I ate on schedule. Same as always. Calm. Kate didn't touch her coffee. She kept staring at her phone like she wanted it to rewrite the week. Around noon, Sarah texted me one line. I saw it again. I'm done. That was Sarah's war, not mine. At 2 p.m., maintenance came and changed the locks. The guy was polite, didn't ask questions. I tipped him and thanked him. Normal day. Normal process. Kate stood in the hallway, arms crossed, trying to look unbothered while her world got reorganized in real time. You're enjoying this, she muttered. I adjusted the new keys in my hand. No, I'm finishing it. She tried one last push, voice low, almost threatening. You think you're some kind of hero. I looked at her, tired of the performance. No, I think I'm a man who won't live with disrespect. She stared at the folder on the counter like it might bite her. She signed the next day. Not gracefully, but she signed. She packed 2 suitcases and a tote bag. She kept trying to talk while she packed, little comments, little jabs like she could still control the mood. This is so extreme. You'll regret this. You're going to be lonely. I didn't argue. I didn't lecture. I just kept the apartment quiet and practical. When she finally stood by the door, keys in hand, she paused like she expected a last-minute rescue scene. Mark, she said, softer, after everything, you're really just done. I nodded once. I'm done. She swallowed. Say something. Anything. I opened the door for her and gave her the last line she earned. You can keep your phone, I said. It clearly already had my spot. She flinched like that landed, then walked out. I closed the door, locked it, and felt something rare in my chest. Not sadness. Relief. A few months later, my life looked better because I stopped paying rent to disrespect. I moved into a quieter place outside the rush, still in Denver, more space, less noise. I upgraded my truck, not flashy, just solid. I started lifting again with Vince after work, and I slept like someone who wasn't constantly bracing for the next cold sentence. And yeah, I met someone. Her name was Rachel. No teatrics. No games. She didn't live in her phone. She looked you in the eye when she spoke. That alone felt like oxygen. As for Kate, I didn't hear much directly. I heard enough. The family picture she was protecting, it shattered anyway. Sarah didn't play along. Dan didn't get to sit at any more friendly tables. Kate lost the comfort and the status she was trying to keep because you can't balance a double life when the people you use for support stop carrying you. I didn't win by yelling. I won by leaving with my dignity intact. Here's what I take from this if you're listening for lessons, not drama. First, don't ignore early disrespect just because there isn't a big incident yet. The cold tone, the constant phone that don't start, the way you get treated like a nuisance, those are not mood swings. They're indicators. When I stopped chasing and started structuring my life, scheduled meals, separated calendars, budget limited to house obligations, Kate didn't suddenly become warm. She became strategic. That tells you everything. Second, facts beat debates. If I had stayed in the endless loop of tell me what's wrong and please talk to me, I would have been negotiating with a person who benefited from confusion. Cameras in common spaces, local storage, and calm documentation turned a foggy situation into a clear one. That's not paranoia. That's refusing to live in the dark. Third, the biggest mistake would have been trading dignity for comfort. It's tempting to accept the sudden pancakes, the candles, the soft voice because it feels like relief. But if the warmth appears only after you apply pressure, it's often a tactic, not a change. I didn't need more promises. I needed respect, and when I saw it wasn't real, I ended access logistically, calmly, and completely. A man doesn't keep his life stable by begging someone to value him. He keeps it stable by setting boundaries that cost something when they're crossed.